The night was darker than usual, and the rain fell in angry sheets over the small coastal town. Daniel, a 38-year-old janitor working the late shift at a nearby airport, was on his way home. His beat-up old truck rattled as he crossed the empty highway, headlights barely cutting through the storm. In the passenger seat sat a small, pink backpack, his daughter Lily's, a quiet reminder of why he worked 2 jobs. He had promised her pancakes in the morning, but fate had other plans that night. As he turned toward the bridge, a flash of light tore through the sky, a jet spiraling downward, flames licking its tail. Seconds later, an explosion echoed in the distance, and Daniel slammed on the brakes. The aircraft had gone down in the river. Without thinking twice, he jumped out of his truck, sprinting into the downpour. The cold water bit at his skin as he dove into the current, his flashlight beam bouncing wildly. The jet's fuselage was half submerged, smoke rising as fuel hissed on the surface. Through a shattered window he saw someone moving. A man struggling, trapped by his seatbelt. Daniel punched at the glass with his elbow until it cracked, then climbed in, coughing through the smoke. "Hold on," he shouted. The man's eyes widened, older, sharp, the kind of face you see on magazine covers. Daniel didn't care who he was. He unbuckled the belt, pulled the man out, and swam with every ounce of strength he had left. By the time rescue teams arrived, both men were half-conscious on the muddy bank. The next morning, Daniel woke up in a hospital bed. His body ached, but his first thought was Lily. He sat up, trying to ask the nurse if she could call his daughter's school, when he heard the sound of engines outside. 3 black Cadillacs rolled up to the hospital entrance, glossy and intimidating against the morning sun. 2 men in suits entered. "Mr. Daniel, the gentleman you rescued wants to see you." Daniel followed them to a private room. The man he had saved was sitting up, wearing a hospital gown, an IV in his arm. But his posture, his presence, it all screamed power. "You pulled me from that wreck," the man said quietly, his voice hoarse. "You saved my life." Daniel shrugged, embarrassed. Anyone would have done the same. The man smiled faintly. "No," he said. "They wouldn't have." Moments later, outside the hospital, the 3 Cadillacs stood waiting. One for Daniel, one filled with gifts for Lily, and one carrying a man who wasn't used to saying thank you. Neighbors peeked through windows as the convoy stopped in front of Daniel's small apartment building. He stepped out, confused, clutching Lily's hand. The suited men opened a case, not with money, but with something far more unexpected. A letter offering Daniel a partnership in a new community program funded by the Billionaire's company, designed to help single parents like him. Daniel didn't know what to say. His throat tightened. He glanced down at Lily, who looked up at him with wide, hopeful eyes. That morning, for the first time in years, the world felt lighter. The storm had passed, and somehow, through an act of simple kindness, life had changed forever. Daniel stood frozen, the crisp morning air brushing against his damp hospital clothes. The billionaire's words still echoed in his ears. "You saved my life. Let me help you live yours." He looked down at Lily, her tiny fingers clutching his calloused hand. Her eyes gleamed with wonder as she stared at the sleek cars lined up outside their worn-down apartment building. To her, it was like something out of a dream. But for Daniel, it wasn't about the cars. It was about what they represented. A chance. The suited man handed him a folder. Inside were papers that didn't just offer him money. They offered him a future, a home, a job with purpose, and a role in something bigger, a foundation that would help single parents find stable work, housing, and childcare. Daniel's throat tightened as he read the letter. It was more than he had ever dared to imagine. He looked up at the billionaire, who now stood beside him. The man's tone softened. "You jumped into that river without knowing who I was. You didn't see a billionaire. You just saw someone in need. The world needs more of that, Daniel. More people like you. Daniel shook his head slowly. No, sir. The world just needs people who care. That's all. The billionaire smiled, extending his hand. Then let's build that world together. A month passed, and the story spread across the country. The janitor who saved a CEO from a sinking jet, and the CEO who rebuilt his life in return. But Daniel never chased fame or attention. He stayed humble, working every day to help others the way he once helped a stranger. The foundation grew. Shelters were built, scholarships launched, and hundreds of parents found new beginnings. Every morning, Daniel still made pancakes for Lily before school. Only now, their kitchen was bright and filled with laughter. On the wall hung a framed newspaper clipping with the headline, "Kindness that changed 2 lives." And many more. When visitors asked Daniel why he risked his life that night, he would smile and say, "Because when you give kindness, it always finds its way back. Maybe not today, but someday." And somewhere, deep in his heart, he knew. That night by the river wasn't an accident. It was destiny's way of reminding the world that no act of goodness ever goes unnoticed. The same river that almost took 2 lives had brought countless others back to hope.